If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh Ellahi, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi, welcome to another episode of The Property Rebel with your host, Arsh Ellahi. And in today's session, I'm going to tell you a pretty horrific story. Now, before we do that, I want to just remind you that this podcast is sponsored by the Property Investor app, which is the UK's first property investment platform, which showcases all kinds of deals all over the UK, whether it's below market value, whether it's a rent-to-rent, whether it's a lease option. We've got them all there. Now, there are, believe it or not, 3 ways to get involved. First way, you can go to the website, which is www.propertyinvestораpp.co.uk. Now, if you've got a smartphone, and most of you will have, you can go to the App Store. So whether you're on Apple, you can go to iOS, or whether you've got an Android phone, you can go to Google Play Store, and you can download the app from there by searching Property Investor. Now, finally, I know you have. Everyone's got WhatsApp. So all you can do is go to WhatsApp, look in your communities and search for Property Investor app. And you can see that we upload deals there almost like every single day. So go and check out the Property Investor app WhatsApp channel. Let's get started. This one is pretty tough because I got called by a property investor. Now, I've been speaking to this guy perhaps now a week, and he called me. He goes, I'm a member of the app. I'm a member of the Property Investor app. Always look for your opportunities. He goes, but I've recently just seen a property and I've kind of bought it. When I say, what do you mean kind of bought it? He goes, I saw it, the figures look good, and I bid on it. So the property was going into auction and he bid on it. He doesn't live in the area, so I don't mind saying that the property is within the West Midlands, so it's not too far from my hometown of Wolverhampton. And he bid on the property without seeing it. There weren't any viewings being conducted on the property. And I said to him, okay, so what due diligence did you do prior to purchasing the property? He goes, I didn't really. He goes, I looked at the legal pack. I didn't really understand it. Time was short, so I just bid on it. I became the successful bidder, and then I had to pay my 10% exchange funds. So when you go to auction, generally speaking, what will happen is that if you are the winning bid, you will pay 10%, which will act as exchange of contracts. And then you have a time frame of 28 days to complete the transaction, which means that if you need funding, you need to make sure that you've got either bridging or you've got cash to complete the transaction. If you don't, the seller can rescind the contract and keep your 10%. So there are complexities if you do not complete on the transaction. Bear in mind that completion is due for tomorrow, being Wednesday. Anyway, a week ago, he calls me. He goes, I've bought this property. He goes, I don't really know much about it. And he goes, my sister's only just started looking at the legal pack, even though they're only a week away from completion. And he goes, there's a few discrepancies. He goes, can you help me out here? He goes, apparently, I bought this property. Apparently, it's tenanted. It's producing a certain amount of income. I said, fine, okay. So bear in mind that I don't know this guy and he's come to me with a bit of a problem, which I always find a bit strange because, first of all, I normally get people to book a 1-hour coaching session, but this guy seemed a bit in distress. So I thought, I'll tell you what, let's help him out. So he starts telling me about the process. So he's bought the property for, I think it's £205,000. And according to the auction catalogue, it's producing the best part of £33,000. So far, looks like a good deal. Producing circa 15% yield. I was like, okay, not bad. It's a block of 6 apartments. I thought, okay, not bad. 205,000 for 6 apartments. Not a bad buy at all. In my hometown, I thought, okay, that's interesting. And he goes, but the legal pack, now that I've had a look at it, says that I cannot ask any questions. I thought, okay, that's a red flag. I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, we can't ask any questions about the tenants. We can't ask any questions about the income. We can't ask any questions about the contract. We're not allowed to raise any inquiries. So we just have to complete. I said, so what's in your legal pack? He goes, nothing. He goes, we've got a contract and that's it. I said, what about all the searches? What about the planning, the local search, the mining search, the water search, the drainage search? No, none of that. So we've got no tenancy agreements, we've got no rental history, we've got no search documentation. And all these for me are red flags. And I said, I'll tell you what, my office is quite local to the property. Why don't I get one of my caretakers to go and knock on the door and see if we can speak to the tenants directly to understand who they are, how much they're paying, how long they've been there, are they in rent arrears, what kind of tenants are they? So my caretaker went there 3 times, and every single time, no one could answer the door. It looked like there's no life within the property. Again, another red flag. We went in the morning, we went at lunchtime, we went in the evening. No one seemed to be living there. But according to the auction, this property was producing £33,000. So anyway, I did a little bit more research on the property, and I noticed that this property had been in auction a few times. And I said to the buyer, now, at this point, I've become a little bit invested in terms of wanting to help this guy out. Now, admittedly, I've spent a lot more time on this than I should have. But considering that this guy has paid over £20,000 as exchange and now has got a week to pay the remainder £180,000, and if he doesn't, they can rescind the contract, which means that he loses that £20,000. So I thought, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. So I looked at the contract, I looked at the person selling, and I instantly knew the person selling. I thought, guys, you're in for a rough ride here, because this guy is notorious for making it very difficult. They want you to default. They want you to default so he keeps the £20,000. That's why he said he doesn't want you to ask any questions, because he wants you to get nervous. He wants you to back out. He wants you to keep £20,000. Now, for those that are listening, believe it or not, if you will see that in a property auction, you'll always see the same names prop up on the contract. That means that they're a property dealer. When they say they're a property dealer, it means that they're a property trader. It means that this is what they do full time. They put properties in auction. They make the conditions so tough for you to complete that they are rescinding the contract. They're keeping them 10%, and they put it in the next auction, and they do it again and again and again. Eventually, they get a free house. I'm not saying that that's what happens all the time. But anyway, so look at the contract. It's shown that it's £33,000. No tenancy agreements. It also states that they have to complete by 11 o'clock on the morning of completion, a minute after, and they will not accept any completion statements or completion funds. So let's just imagine that if I don't get my funds to the solicitor the day before, and the solicitor does not complete before 11 a.m., even if we sent the funds at 5 minutes past 11, they will not accept it. And why do they do that? They do that because they don't want you to complete. They are purposely making this difficult. So anyway, I call the auction company because I know the auction company quite well. And I said to him, guys, I said, what can you tell me about this guy? He goes, absolute nightmare. He goes, the amount of problems we have with this guy. He goes, we sell his properties in auction. And he goes, a large majority of them don't complete because of the conditions that he puts in place. He goes, if I was you, he goes, if you were buying it, and I'm telling you this now because, we've dealt with you for a number of years, he goes, walk away. And that's exactly what they want us to happen. This seller wants us to walk away. Not only that, I look into the contract deeper, and something that the auctioneer told me, he goes, be careful, because in his contacts, he puts in there that if the tenant is in arrears, he will ask the buyer to pay for all the arrears. And I looked at the contract, and it states in there, and I asked the solicitor, the buyer's solicitor to produce a completion statement. I said, can you tell me exactly what the buyer has now got to pay on completion? And lo and behold, there's £29,000 worth of rental arrears that the seller has put into the contract. So now he's not paying £204,000 for it. He's actually paying £233,000 for it. On top of that, there's costs that he has to pay, the auctioneer's fee, he has to pay the seller's solicitor's fee, he has to pay this fee, he has to pay that fee. It's closer to £250,000. So why am I telling you this, guys, is because this is a true horror story, because now the buyer, he thought he's paying £204,000. Now he's had to go off and now beg, borrow and steal the remainder of the funds now to get up to closer to £250,000. Otherwise, he loses his £20,000. So what would you do in this scenario? Would you now, back out thinking, you know what, it's better to lose 20,000 as opposed to, go into a property which is going to have perhaps problems? Or would you complete on 250,000 knowing that it's still producing 33,000 if that is a real figure? And also knowing that You could come across other issues. There may not actually be any tenants in the property. We've not seen the condition of the property. You've not inspected the property. So you could be walking into a meridian of issues. What would you do? So again, there's no right and wrong here. Personally, I would complete and then I would go and sue the seller. So there's lots of other things that I've not told you because, again, due to time restrictions. But the lesson that you're going to be taking away from this is don't buy blind. Don't buy a car without test driving it. Don't buy a house without viewing it. Don't buy a house in auction without reviewing the legal contract and making sure that all is in order. Why would you put yourself in such a position? Now, this guy's in the position he is where he is, but we now have to deal with the hand that has been dealt with. So guys, hopefully that has kind of woke you up to making sure that you look at the legal paperwork correctly before bidding on a property, reviewing the property, viewing the property, reviewing the contract, speaking to all the people before you bid so that you know what you're buying. So really hope that helps, guys. As a reminder, this podcast is sponsored by the Property Investor app. Go and check it out. 3 ways to do it. Website, propertyinvestораpp.co.uk. Mobile app by searching the App Store to searching Property Investor. WhatsApp community channel. Go and check it out by searching for Property Investor app. All these are now being uploaded onto our socials, so go and check us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, all under the handle of Arsh Ellahi. On that note, guys, really hope that you've enjoyed it, and don't get caught out like this guy. And I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.